There's a reason why some people spend 10 years practicing something and remain mediocre, while others transform into masters in 3. It has nothing to do with talent, nothing to do with genetics, everything to do with understanding 3 invisible stages that most people skip entirely. This is the story of how a frustrated teenager discovered an ancient Japanese system so powerful that it turned ordinary villagers into legendary craftsmen, warriors, and artists. And by the end, you'll understand why you haven't mastered anything yet. Not because you can't, but because no one taught you the path. Kenji was 17 years old when he first picked up a guitar. He wasn't musical. His family wasn't artistic. But something about the instrument called to him like a voice in the dark. He spent every spare moment watching tutorial videos, reading theory books, memorizing chord shapes and scales. He practiced for an hour every single day for an entire year, and at the end of that year, he sounded worse than when he started. Not different, not better, worse. His fingers moved stiffly. His rhythm was broken. Every song he attempted felt lifeless, mechanical, wrong. He had spent 365 days cementing mistakes into muscle memory. 365 days practicing the wrong way with dedication that would have made him great if only it had been directed correctly. But he didn't know that yet. All he knew was the burning frustration of trying everything and failing anyway. One evening, after a particularly terrible practice session where his fingers felt like wooden blocks, Kenji threw his guitar onto his bed and sat with his head in his hands. He had memorized 47 songs. He knew music theory. He understood scales, modes, chord progressions. He had all the knowledge. But knowledge wasn't the same as mastery. And he was starting to realize he had wasted an entire year of his life. The next day at school, his music teacher, Mr. Tanaka, noticed Kenji's guitar case and asked him to play something. Kenji hesitated, then played a simple folk song he'd been practicing for months. His fingers stumbled. The timing was off. The notes were technically correct but soulless. Mr. Tanaka listened in silence. When Kenji finished, he said, "You've been teaching yourself, haven't you?" Kenji nodded. "I can tell. You know what the notes are, but you don't know how to play them. Your problem isn't lack of practice. Your problem is that you tried to build a house starting with the roof." Kenji felt something crack open inside his chest. "What do you mean?" "You learned songs before learning posture. You studied theory before mastering a single chord. You tried to create your own style before imitating anyone else's. You skipped the foundation entirely and went straight to the complex. That's why after a year of practice, you sound like you've practiced for a week." The words hit like a hammer. Kenji had thought he was being efficient, learning everything at once, exploring his creativity, being original. But Mr. Tanaka was right. He had learned nothing deeply. He knew everything shallowly. "There's a system," Mr. Tanaka said, "an old Japanese system that transformed peasants into master swordsmen, potters, calligraphers. It works for any skill, guitar, programming, cooking, anything. But most people today refuse to follow it because their ego can't handle the first stage." Kenji looked up. "What system?" "We call it Shuhari. 3 stages. Shu, obey. Ha, break. Re, transcend. You cannot skip a stage. You cannot rush through them. Each one takes as long as it takes. And if you try to jump ahead, you build nothing but sand castles." Kenji felt hope flicker for the first time in months. "Will you teach me?" Mr. Tanaka studied him for a long moment. "If you can obey completely for 6 months without questioning, without improvising, without trying to be creative, then yes. But most students quit after 2 weeks because their ego can't tolerate being a beginner."
"I won't quit," Kenji said. "We'll see."
The first lesson happened the next afternoon in Mr. Tanaka's small studio. Kenji expected to learn a new song, a better technique, some secret that would unlock his potential. Instead, Mr. Tanaka handed him the guitar and said, "Sit." Kenji sat. No. Sit correctly, back straight, guitar at 45 degrees, left hand relaxed, right hand floating. Kenji adjusted his position. "No, straighter. The guitar is higher, your left thumb is gripping, release it." They spent 30 minutes on posture, not a single note played, just sitting, holding the instrument, breathing. Kenji's mind screamed with impatience. This was boring. This was a waste. He wanted to play music, not practice sitting. As if reading his thoughts, Mr. Tanaka said, "This is Shu, the stage of perfect obedience. You will copy me exactly. No personal touch, no creativity, no shortcuts. You will practice single movements 1,000 times until they become unconscious, and your ego will hate every second of it. Why? Kenji asked. Because the ego wants to be special immediately. It wants to skip the boring fundamentals and jump to the impressive parts. But mastery doesn't work that way. A building with no foundation collapses. A musician with no basics plays noise, not music. For the next 3 months, Kenji learned only 3 chords. 3, not 47 songs, not complex finger-picking patterns, 3 simple chords. But he practiced the transition between them 50 times every single day. The same 3 chords, over and over and over. His mind went numb with the repetition. His friends asked why he was still playing beginner chords after months of lessons. His parents wondered if Mr. Tanaka was a bad teacher. But something was happening beneath the surface. After 500 repetitions, Kenji's fingers began moving between chords without his conscious mind directing them. After 1,000 repetitions, he could transition perfectly while having a conversation. After 1,500 repetitions, the chords weren't something he played. They were something that happened through him. Mr. Tanaka explained the neuroscience one afternoon. There's a researcher at Tokyo University who has studied motor learning for 18 years. He discovered that after 300 to 500 correct repetitions, your brain creates an automated pattern. The movement transfers from your conscious mind to your automatic systems. After 1,000 repetitions, you could play these chords while asleep. But if you change the movement before 300 repetitions, the pattern never forms. You just keep practicing consciously forever, which means you'll always be slow, always be thinking, never be free. Kenji understood then why his first year of self-teaching had failed. He had practiced 47 songs once or twice each. He never practiced anything 300 times. He never formed a single automated pattern. He was trying to think his way through every movement, which meant he would always be trapped in his head, never in flow. 4 months into training, something shifted. Kenji was practicing the same 3 chords when suddenly his hands moved and he found himself playing a simple melody he'd never learned. It wasn't planned, it wasn't conscious. His hands simply knew what to do. The chords had become so deeply embedded that his fingers could recombine them spontaneously. Mr. Tanaka smiled. That's the moment when technique enters the body so deeply that the mind doesn't need to be present. You've completed Shu. Now we enter Ha. Ha was different. Mr. Tanaka introduced Kenji to another teacher, Mr. Yamada, who taught a completely opposite style. Where Mr. Tanaka emphasized precision and control, Mr. Yamada emphasized looseness and feel. Where Mr. Tanaka played with his fingers close to the fretboard, Mr. Yamada used wide, sweeping motions. Where Mr. Tanaka practiced slowly with a metronome, Mr. Yamada played freely without counting. At first, Kenji's brain short-circuited. Which way was correct? How could both teachers be right when they contradicted each other completely? If you've made it this far, stay with me. Because what happened next is the key to everything. This is where most people quit. They think Ha means choosing between styles. It doesn't. Ha means seeing through styles to the principles beneath. Mr. Tanaka explained it like this. You've learned my style perfectly. Now learn Yamada's style perfectly. Don't mix them yet. Don't judge one against the other. Just master both. And eventually, you'll see what we're both teaching underneath the techniques. So Kenji spent 6 more months learning Mr. Yamada's approach with the same obsessive repetition he'd used in Shu. He practiced loose flowing movements 1,000 times. He played without thinking, without counting, letting rhythm come from feeling instead of precision. And slowly, something emerged. Beneath Mr. Tanaka's precision and Mr. Yamada's looseness was the same principle. Both teachers were teaching connection between mind, body, and instrument. Both were teaching presence. Both were teaching how to disappear into the music. They just used opposite techniques to get there. Once Kenji saw this, everything changed. He stopped copying either teacher exactly and began combining elements naturally. He would play with Mr. Tanaka's precision in complex passages and Mr. Yamada's looseness in simple ones. He adapted based on what the music needed, not based on what he'd been taught. He was creating something new. Not random, not undisciplined. But not a perfect copy either. He was adapting based on deep understanding. Mr. Tanaka nodded with approval. Ha is complete. You understand principles now, not just techniques. Most students stop here. They think they've reached mastery. But there's one more stage, and it's the hardest to explain because it can't be taught. It can only be entered. "Ree," Kenji said. "Ree." For the next 2 years, Kenji played every single day. Not practicing techniques, not learning songs, just playing, responding to whatever arose. Sometimes he played for audiences. Sometimes he played alone in his room. Sometimes he played with other musicians, adapting to their energy in real time. And gradually, something he couldn't quite describe began happening. He would sit down to play and realize 30 minutes had passed without a single conscious thought. He wasn't deciding what to play. Music was playing itself through him. His hands moved before his mind could label what they were doing. There was a moment, 2 years into this stage, when Kenji played at a small venue and everything disappeared. The audience, the venue, his own body. There was only music happening, and some part of him was aware of it, but there was no Kenji making decisions. The music made itself. Afterward, Mr. Tanaka said, "That was Rai. You stopped fighting. You stopped trying. You became an empty channel, and music flowed through you." A researcher at Kyoto University who has studied embodied cognition for 22 years discovered something remarkable about this state. At the highest levels of mastery, brain scans showed dramatically decreased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for conscious decision-making. Meanwhile, older brain structures, the automatic systems, show heightened activity. The expert isn't doing the skill is expressing itself through them. The person and the skill become one thing. Kenji understood then that he didn't know techniques anymore. He knew 0 techniques and infinite techniques simultaneously. If someone asked him to explain what he was doing, he couldn't. But if someone needed a certain feeling expressed through music, his hands would find it instantly. Years later, Kenji became a teacher himself. Students would come to him asking to learn 500 techniques, 1,000 songs, all the secrets. And he would smile and say, "First, sit correctly. Hold the guitar like this. We're going to practice 3 chords." And inevitably, after 2 weeks, half the students would quit. "This is too slow. This is too boring. I want to learn real music." Those students never became musicians. They became collectors of techniques they never mastered. Tourists in the land of music, never residents. But the ones who stayed, the ones who could tolerate the humiliation of being complete beginners, the ones who could copy without ego for 6 months, those students transformed. Not because they had more talent, because they followed the path. Now, here's the part where this stops being a story about Kenji and becomes a story about you. Because Shuhari isn't just about guitar. It's about everything. Any skill, any craft, any domain of mastery. You want to learn programming? Shu means copying working code line by line from experts until you can write it without thinking. Ha means understanding patterns and combining approaches. Re means solutions manifesting through your fingers automatically without conscious planning. You want to build a business. Shu means replicating a proven model exactly without deviation. Ha means adapting to your specific market and seeing universal principles. Rai means intuitively knowing what will work without needing to analyze why. You want to learn a language? Shu means imitating native speakers obsessively until pronunciation is automatic. Ha means understanding grammar patterns across contexts. Re means thinking in the language without translation. You want to master cooking, writing, martial arts, public speaking, anything. Shu-ha-ree, always the same path, always the same sequence, 0 exceptions. A researcher at Oxford University who has studied expertise development for 25 years conducted a massive study analyzing 500 masters across every domain. Musicians, athletes, scientists, entrepreneurs, artists. And she found something stunning. 100% of them followed a 3-stage pattern. Imitation first, experimentation second, intuition third, 0 exceptions. Not a single master skipped stage 1 and succeeded. But here's the burning truth most people refuse to hear. You haven't mastered anything, not because you lack talent, not because you lack time, not because you lack resources. It's because you keep trying to start in ha or re without doing shu. You want virtuoso results without paying the obsessive repetition price. You want to skip shu because it's boring, because it's humiliating to be a beginner, because it feels like losing your identity to copy someone else exactly. Let me be brutally honest with you. The reason you know a little about 47 things and nothing deeply about anything is because modern culture sold you a toxic lie. The lie says you should find your own way immediately. The lie says following others is for uncreative people. The lie says if it's not fun and easy, it's not for you. That lie is destroying an entire generation. People start learning guitar and quit after 2 weeks because they're not playing songs yet. They start learning a language and quit after a month because they can't have conversations yet. They start businesses and quit after 6 months because they're not profitable yet. They never stay long enough to complete shoo. They never build a foundation. So they remain eternal beginners, jumping from hobby to hobby, skill to skill, always starting, never finishing, convinced that they're exploring their interests, when really they're running from the only thing that would save them. Patience, humility, obsessive repetition of boring fundamentals until those fundamentals become unconscious. As long as you believe you're too special for the path, you'll remain mediocre at everything you touch. As long as you think copying is beneath you, you will create nothing original. As long as you need every practice session to be exciting and fun, you will never practice anything long enough to get good. The eternal student trap is this. You know 100 techniques but mastered none. You have 500 options but can't execute any of them well. You're constantly learning but never applying. You're always in shoo but never completing it, so you never reach shoo-ha-ree. And 5 years from now, you'll be exactly where you are today, knowing a little about everything, mastering nothing. So here's the path. Not tomorrow, not Monday, right now. Choose one skill, just one. If you mastered it in 3 years, it would transform your entire life. One skill. Guitar, programming, public speaking, writing, cooking, a language, doesn't matter, just choose. Then find someone 10 times better than you at that skill. Someone you can study, in person or online. Doesn't matter, find a master. Then enter shoo with complete humility. Copy them obsessively. Practice single movements 1,000 times. Accept that it will be boring. Accept that it will feel like you're losing your identity. Accept that other people will judge you for being a beginner. Do it anyway. When the techniques flow without conscious thought, you've completed shoo. Then enter ha. Study a second master with a different style. Find the principles beneath the contradictions. Combine approaches. Experiment. When you can adapt spontaneously based on deep understanding, ha is complete. Then enter ree. Just do the thing, every day, for years. Stop thinking about techniques. Let the skill express itself through you. One day you'll realize you're in ree without trying to get there. You'll be in flow. The skill will do itself. And you'll have become what you once only dreamed of being. A researcher at Stanford University studying habit formation discovered that the single biggest predictor of long-term mastery isn't talent or resources. It's the willingness to look like an idiot during shoo. The willingness to be a beginner without ego. The people who can tolerate that discomfort for 6 months become masters. The people who can't remain dabblers forever. Shuhari is a mirror. What you see in it reveals who you'll be in 5 years. Are you someone willing to start as a complete beginner without ego? Or are you someone still looking for the hack, the shortcut, the way to avoid the work? Only one of those people will truly master something. Kenji was nobody, no special talent, no musical family, no advantages, just a willingness to obey before questioning, to imitate before innovating, to master basics before seeking advanced. That willingness transformed him from a frustrated teenager who couldn't play 3 chords into a master who taught others. You have the same choice. The same path is open to you right now. Before I go, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and tell me in the comments, what skill will you master using Shuhari? What's the one thing that, if you mastered it in 3 years, would transform your life? Write it down. Make it real. If you've made it this far, thank you for your attention. You're one of the few willing to listen to the entire message. That already separates you from most people. 5 years from now, you'll either be exactly where you are, knowing little about everything, or you'll be extraordinary at the one thing you chose to master. Mastery is waiting. It won't find you. You walk to it. Shoo-ha-ree. The path is ancient. The path is tested. The path works.